Okay, so we have a short chapter entitled Reunion, and then we're going to get into a longer chapter entitled JD. And JD is in reference to, of course, JD Astor that Aidan and Sarah were trying to track down or get to. So I think that'll be a pretty exciting chapter. So we'll do both, even though it'll be maybe a little bit longer video. Aidan, having rounded one corner then another, was running hard on a side street, looking back, thinking about his next move. His plan had been to head back to the train station and catch the next train to Princeton. But now things have changed. The police wouldn't be able to hold the big guy who'd been following him after all. He hadn't done anything wrong, and if he was a private detective, which Aidan was pretty sure he was, he would tell the police that Aidan was a runaway. Then the police would be after him too. He thought maybe he could take a bus to Princeton. The question was which bus and where to catch it. He was passing a Harley-Davidson shop. Glancing inside, he saw a wide, bearded man with many square feet of tattoos talking to a man dressed in head-to-toe black leather, wearing a red bandana. Aidan went in. "Excuse me," he said. The men turned toward him, and Aidan wondered if he was making a mistake. The wide man, his voice in a growl, said, "You look a little young for a Harley." Harley-Davidson is a motorcycle, so he's in a motorcycle shop. I was just wondering, what's the best way to get to Princeton?" The wide man tugged at his beard. "Well, there's the train." "Right. I was just looking for something faster." "Really? Faster than the train?" "Yeah." "Well, if you want to go fast, maybe you could hitch a ride with Tommy here. He's heading that way now, delivering a part. You up for a rider, Tommy?" Tommy looked at Aidan. He had a lean, sun-baked face and a hard expression, but when he spoke, his voice was surprisingly soft. "Happy to take you, kid, if we can find you a helmet." "Seriously? On a Harley?" "I don't drive the imaginary ones." In a half an hour, one of the most exciting half hours of Aidan's life, he was climbing off of the Harley at the doorstep of the Princeton Town Library. He thanked Tommy and went inside, and in a few minutes he found Sarah at one of the computer stations typing away. He walked up quietly behind her and tapped her on the shoulder. She emitted a small scream, drawing disapproving stares from the other library patrons. Then, seeing who it was, jumped up and wrapped Aidan in one of the kind of warm embraces she normally reserved for dogs. "Easy," said Aidan. "Sorry, I'm just happy to see me." "Incredible as it seems, yes. No more splitting up, okay?" "Agreed." "Now what? Where's our guy?" "Well, I've done some Google mapping. His office is on the Princeton campus. It's a little ways away, but we can walk." They set out from the library, Aidan telling her the story of his ride on a Harley. "I really hope this guy can help us," said Aidan as they approached Princeton. And now we're on to chapter 17 called JD. The Princeton Physics Department was headquartered in Jadwin Hall, a massive modern brick building next to the football stadium. The office Sarah and Aidan were looking for was on the second floor at the end of a long hallway, and the door was closed. As they approached it, Sarah grabbed Aidan's arm. "Look," she said, pointing to the nameplate to the door, which read J.D. Astor, Associate Professor of Physics. "His name is Astor, J.D. Astor." "I can read," said Aidan. "So it's not just his email address, it's his real name. He's a star catcher for sure." "Sarah, he's a guy named Astor who may be able to help us. Oh, I so hope he can help us." She rapped her knuckles twice on the door. "Come in," called the man's voice. Sarah opened the door and stepped inside, followed by Aidan. The office was cluttered. Papers were everywhere, occupying 2 chairs as well as a good section of the floor. Behind the desk, facing a computer screen, was a man in his 20s, wearing faded jeans and a t-shirt that read, "Death to Squirrels." His messy brown hair spilled all over an angular face dominated by a startling pair of green eyes set above prominent cheekbones. "Whoa," said Sarah softly. Aidan rolled his eyes. "Can I help you?" said the man. "Death to Squirrels," said Aidan. It's a band. I'm JD, and you are?" Sarah, wishing she'd checked her hair one last time before opening the door, stepped forward and said, "I'm Sarah Cooper, and this is my brother Aidan. I'm the one who sent you you sent it to me, but it was to answer the... Anyway, what are you talking about?" said JD. "You answered our Craigslist ad," said Aidan. "That was you?" Sarah and Aidan nodded. "But you're just kids." Sarah reddened. Well, you don't look old enough to be a college professor. Associate professor, said JD. Well, Professor, said Sarah, we're old enough to have found you and have come here to ask for your help. Help with? Sarah hesitated for a moment. Star stuff, she said. Excuse me? We have some star stuff. It's real, said Aidan, really real. We found a letter, said Sarah, and a map, and we followed the map and we found the star stuff in England, hidden in a cave. And we took it and we thought it would be fun, but now Umbra knows we have it and he's after it. JD smiled. That would be Lord Umbra? Yeah, he's after us. He's a flock of birds, ravens, and he stopped, seeing the look on JD's face. You don't believe us, said Sarah. I take it you two are fans of the books. Yes, we are, said Sarah, but listen, those books are just stories. People get wrapped up in stories, but they're just stories. Aidan said, you think we came all this way to tell you about a fairy tale? I'm afraid I do. Well, maybe you'd like to see what's inside the... Ow! He yanked his arm away from Sarah, painfully pinching his fingers. She gave him a shut-up look, then turned to JD. Well, I have a question, Professor asked her. If you don't believe in the star stuff, why did you answer our ad? Why did you say you wanted to meet us? Why did you tell us to come here? Because when I answered the ad, I didn't know you were children. We're not children. I'm 17. JD snorted. Besides, what difference does it make how old we are? You answered the ad. You told us to meet with you. Why did you do that if you don't believe us? I guess I owe you an explanation. You think? Said Aidan. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you now. Our big family secret was passed down through generations. I shouldn't tell you this, but at this point, I don't think it matters anymore. My great-grandfather Henry was an Englishman and the nephew of the man named Leonard Astor, the same that's in the books. Henry claimed he was a star catcher. Oh my God, I knew it. You're one of them. I'm no such thing. I said my great-grandfather claimed he was a star catcher. It was a family legend passed down through generations, but they're all gone now. I'm the last of the Astors as far as I know, and I'm not passing it on because I think it's a fairy tale. What did your parents think? My mom thought the whole star catcher thing was silly. My father wanted to believe. He loved and respected his father and grandfather, but he was a physicist like me. He needed proof. The idea of star stuff, flying, shadow creatures, I don't think he really believed any of it, but he felt like he owed it to his father, so he passed the instructions along to me. What instructions? Well, basically to keep an eye out for, that's the part that's vague. The story passed down in our family was that the bad guys were defeated back in England, and all the star stuff was gone except for one batch, which they kept in case of an emergency, hidden in some secret safe place by this guy, McGill. So the instructions, according to my dad, were that the Astors were to keep an eye out in case the bad guys reappeared, or the star stuff somehow got out, or somebody needed our help. All kind of vague, and I don't think my dad ever really bought it. I know I don't buy it. I promised my dad I would keep an eye out, so I did. I used a web search program with keywords like star stuff, star catchers, Astor, that sort of thing. But most of what I get is fans of the books blogging about them. But your Craigslist ad seemed different. You mentioned McGill, which was unusual. So I answered you. But now you're here, and to be honest, I feel pretty stupid for letting it get this far. Listen, I'm sorry if I wasted your time, but I honestly don't want to waste any more of mine. So if you'll excuse me. We're wasting your time? Do you have any idea? Sarah put a hand on her brother's arm. I have one more question for you, Professor. Yeah? What about the books? What do you mean? The Starcatcher books. You had this big family secret for all these years, and all of a sudden there's these books about the exact same thing. Star stuff, star catchers, Astors. Didn't that freak you out? Good question. Yeah, it did freak me out at first, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized it made perfect sense. How? Said Sarah. Well, it's obvious. The Starcatcher story must be an old legend. I don't know how it got into my family. Maybe somebody told the story to one of my ancestors, or maybe one of my ancestors made it up and told their kids one night. But however it got started, it's obvious that the other people outside my family had also heard basically the same story. And a few years ago, somebody decided to turn it into books for kids. It just proves my point. It's a folk tale. It's all made up. You sure? I'm a scientist. I believe in what can be proven, and there's no proof. Really? Said Sarah. She unslung her backpack and set it on the desk. She looked at Aidan and said, What do you think? I think he's a jerk, said Aidan. I heard that, said JD. Aidan, we need his help. All right, then show him. Show me what? Proof, said Sarah. She unzipped the backpack and took out the golden box. She set it on the desk with a solid thunk. There. Nice box, said JD. It's full of star stuff. JD looked at the box and then at Sarah and smiled. Sure it is. You don't believe me? I don't believe you. Told you he's a jerk. I'm a scientist, said JD. Sarah touched the golden wheel in the box. Stick out your hand. Aidan stepped forward. Sarah, we showed it to him. That's enough. This is not a good idea. Just a little. Aidan shook his head. It could bring them, Sarah. They can feel it. From this far away, said Sarah. I don't know. They could be anywhere. JD's smile broadened. Nicely done. A fine performance. I gather that because of the grave danger of the box of the contents, you can't actually show me the star stuff. Sarah's face turned a deep red. Sarah, said Aidan, stick out your hand, she said to JD. If you're videoing this, said JD, stick out your hand. With a sigh, JD put out his hand. You might want to turn it right side up. It wears off. By waving his arms in a swimming motion, JD got himself roughly upright. Oh my gosh, he couldn't believe it. The glow. Okay, I believe you. Duh, said Aidan. Now, I want to know everything, said JD. JD maneuvered himself to his desk chair, then took hold of its arms, flying. They told him the whole story, starting with finding the map on the desk. It took more than an hour. JD wanted every detail. When they were finally done, he sat up in his chair. The star stuff had finally worn off after floating on the ceiling for a while. So to sum it up, you found the last star stuff, and now Ambra's after you, and you can't trust anybody because Ambra can get to anybody or be anybody. So you came to me for help? Yeah, we needed a star catcher. Oh, but I'm not a star catcher. My grandfather was, I guess, and maybe my dad, but I'm not. You are now, said Aidan. You made a promise to your dad. I did, but I didn't realize, that you actually might have to do something? Guilty, said JD. Well, are you a man of your word? JD's smile was gone. I'd like to think that I am. All right, well, we have the star stuff and we need your help. Trouble is, I don't know how I can help you. You know more about this than I do. Are you sure your family were star catchers? Seriously, most of what I got from my dad was really vague. Great, good thing we just about killed ourselves getting here. JD was drumming his fingers on his desk, frowning. Okay, listen, I've never believed it. Believed what? I've always dismissed it as the ramblings of a Victorian woman who had nothing better to do than brood over some fairy tale. Dismissed what? Well, there's a book, supposedly a diary. Sarah was leaning forward now. My grandfather left it to my dad, who kept it in a safe deposit box, and when I was going through my parents' stuff, I flipped through it once. It didn't make any sense to me. Of course, at the time, I thought the star stuff business was ridiculous anyway. I almost threw it out. But you didn't. No, it's with some of the old stuff at my place. Can we see it, like now? And get something to eat, said Aidan. I don't see why not, said JD. One more thing, you called it a diary. Right. Whose diary? Supposedly a relative of mine from England, though I'm not exactly sure what the relationship is. Something like my great-great-great-aunt, if I have it right. I was told she sent the diary to my grandfather for safekeeping when she was getting old and frail. Sarah stared at JD intently. What was her name? She asked softly. Mary Astor Darling, said JD. Mary was her given name, said Sarah softly. She was known as Molly. So this is a great chapter because we make the connection to JD being an Astor, which is really, really critical, and I love how they make JD have the green eyes, which is really the first tell that they're on the right track. Now that they have JD, they have a key puzzle piece in starting to unlock more and more of the mystery. So we've really hit a part where things are going to ramp up. I can tell you that tomorrow's chapter is entitled The Diary, and you'll get to hear some things from Mary Astor Darling's diary, also known as Molly, which should be pretty exciting. See you tomorrow.